Welcome. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Okay, let's see what happens when I'm doing this. I'm actually sharing two things, and there we go. All right. All right. So we just finished the song, right? Essentially. So Vatikach Miriam Hanevi'ah. That every word has some significance to it, right? So Miriam took, that is Miriam the prophetess. And this may be the very first time she's referred to as Miriam the prophetess. Achot Aharon, sister of Aaron. And all these things sort of raise questions. Why is she called a prophetess here? In what sense did she prophesy? Why is she sister of Aaron? Wasn't she also sister of Moses? So why is she called sister of Aaron here? Et hatof biyada, she took the tof in her hand. We're going to call it, it sounds like an onomatopoeia, right? So tof, so some kind of drum. Vateitzena, and she went out. Oh, sorry, this is plural. The subject is Chol Nashim Acharea. All the women went out after her. They followed her out. But Tupim uvimcholot. Tupim is simply the plural of Tof, right? Bimcholot, a machol is a dance. So with timbrels and dances. Let's take a look at the Rashi. Vatikach Miriam Hanaviah. So Miriam the prophetess took. And Rashi goes right into it. Hechan nit nab'ah. Where did she prophesy? Kishahaita achot Aharon, when she was the sister of Aaron, kodem shinolad Moshe. In other words, Moses wasn't around. It was before Moses was born. Amra, she said, this is the prophecy, Atida imi, it is in the future, my mother, sheteled ben, that she will give birth to a son, v'chule keita besota, which is, you can find it in the Tractate Sota on page 12. And that's the other share that I have for you today. I actually went ahead and, of course, with Safaria, all things are possible. Let's see what I can do here. I thought I had it in here, so let me see. I thought I'd shared it. Apparently, I'm going to have to add a share. So let me see. I thought I'd shared both. So I'm going to try, let's see if this will let me add a share. No. Okay. Sorry. Let's see what'll happen if I put this. Yep. Let's see here. This is the one. And it says shared too, but it didn't. So, okay, let's try this. There it is. Okay. Can you see a different document now?
Yes.
So this is on Sota 12b. It happens to be at the very end of that section. There's a whole Agarata here, but you see, and Miriam the prophetess, this is in the Talmud. We'll just take a look at the English. I won't work with the Hebrew for now, right? And all the women. So there's the verse we just looked at. The Gemara asks, why is Miriam referred to as the sister of Aaron and not the sister of Moses? Rav says, and Rashi's going to quote this. So you're getting to see sources that Rashi was aware of that he shares. And some say Rav Nachman. This is the important thing, that the level of attribution in the Talmud is extreme. It's rigorous. So they care who the author was. Was it Rav Nachman or Rav? Rav is a major Amora. This is teachers who followed the when the Mishnah was basically put together, and they're mentioned in the Talmud. And he was a major player in Babylonia, and this is it. This teaches that Miriam already prophesied when she was still the sister of only Aaron. And you can see how Rashi's taking it right there before Moses was born. So that's what it. And as a child, Miriam would say, here's the prophecy. In the future, my mother will give birth to a son who will save the Jewish people. That wasn't in the Rashi. That was just a Gomer. And once Moses was born, the entire house was filled with light. So this is just some more detail here, right? He said to her, my daughter, your prophecy has been fulfilled, right? Etc., etc., etc. So just to show you I do want to comment a little bit because I mentioned the level of attribution, right? How the difference, right, between plagiarism and scholarship. The difference between plagiarism and scholarship is a plagiarist doesn't mention he doesn't do attributions, and a scholar gives attributions, but essentially with the same information. So there's a statement that says that a person who quotes someone else in their name brings salvation to the world. So there's this sort of underlying text in all these attributions, and the reason they say that is because when it came to in the Megillah, it mentions that Esther told the king in the name of Mordechai, and that all led that about the story how Bigtan and Teresh had wanted to assassinate him, and if you remember where the turning of the key in the excuse me in the Megillah happens when the king comes across this passage in the annals and reads about how Mordechai was able to save him from what Bigtan and Cherish had wanted to do. And the whole situation changes, and of course, redemption comes. So that's used as the basis of this principle that giving attribution is the precedes redemption. Also, of course, you can dig further into exactly why that is the case, and maybe it shows a level of appreciation and how we actually are all so interrelated and how we're so actually interdependent on one another to a level where we can appreciate just how much our own lives hang on what other people do. Again, I'm just scratching a surface, but it is interesting that both the Mishnah and the Talmud are just full of, and a lot of rabbinic literature is filled with these attributions. So, at any rate, I wanted to give you a chance to see how Rashi uses sources in which to base his commentary. I hope you have the other text in front of you now. Let me know, please. Did you see a change in the text to the one that we're studying? Someone tell me, please.
Pardon me? No,
No.
we're still on the
Good.
Safari.
Okay. All right. Let me see what I can do.
While you're switching, I just want to throw in,
Yes.
you have sort of a circular deal here because the Talmud translation of the Gemara is in
Hmm.
boldface that you just left behind,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then the small print, as in the Schottenstein, as in many things, is an explanation or a fleshing out.
Right.
But the
Right.
interesting thing is that it's a little bit circular because what happens is that the translation in the Safaria of the Gemara, the
Hmm.
small print is to some degree citing Rashi's interpretation. So it kind of goes a little bit around and around.
Okay. So let me clarify that because obviously circular reasoning isn't really good
I'm not saying it's
language.
circular reasoning,
No.
circular
Okay.
unattributed in
Oh.
Safaria is Rashi's interpretation.
Oh.
That's
Okay.
all.
Okay.
So it kind of makes it understandable in the Gemara,
Right.
but
Right.
it's Rashi who's doing that.
Okay, so of course there's Rashi that we've got here that
Yep.
we're studying, and there's also perhaps Rashi's magnum opus, which was his explanation of the
Of
Gemara,
the Torah, of
of the
Gemara,
Gemara, of the
absolutely,
Gemara.
which
Right,
we
and it's a
don't
different,
see.
right, it's
Yep,
the same person
yep,
because they can tell from stylistic
yep,
reasons, but
yep,
and possibly some historical documentation, possibly,
yep,
although I don't know where that would be. But also, yeah, but it's important to distinguish between those two. Right. Yeah.
yep. Okay.
Question is, which did he do first? That's an interesting question. Did he first do this or did he first do the Talmud?
The Talmud. I
Yeah,
don't know. I think he
I don't know.
probably did this first, unless this
Yeah,
is unless this is a Reader's Digest version that we're doing today.
it could be. I don't know. There must be some scholarship, I would think, on that particular
Yeah.
question.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that out.
Okay. Yes. I could interpret what you're saying as saying the way in which the generations are interlocked.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a polite way of putting it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think there's truth to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. Davar acher. So another interpretation, but it was also there we saw in Sota. Achot Aharon, she's mentioned as the sister of Aaron, Lefi shemasar nafsho, because he put his own life in jeopardy, aleha, on her behalf. Keshenitzt ar'a, when she became leprous, Nikret al Shemo, and for that reason she is mentioned as the sister of Aaron. Because remember, when in the story in the book of Numbers, where Miriam becomes leprous because she and Aaron speak against Moses, they're critical of him, and she becomes leprous. The reason why Aaron doesn't become leprous, even though he deserves it, and we discuss this because we have actually looked at that passage, was because he was high priest. And so the implications would go far greater if he had become leprous, but he speaks up on her behalf at that point, and that's understood as to why here she's called sister of Aaron, even though Moses is around. Etatov. So this word tof, I believe, might be the first time it's mentioned. So kli shel minei zemer. It is a type of musical instrument, is what he's telling us. Betupim uvim cholot, right, with these timbrels and dances. Muf, sorry, here we go. Muftarot, this is beautiful. Muftarot hayu tzadkaniyot shebador, that the righteous women of the generation were certain, they were certain, shehakadosh baruch hu oseh lahem nisim, that God would perform miracles on behalf, I believe, of the Jewish people. V'hotziu tupim Mitzrayim, and so consequently they brought drums and timbrels, musical instruments from Egypt, because they wouldn't have been able to have, fine musical instruments. Not a lot of music stores in the desert. So they had anticipated they might want to do that. So again, I feel this is sort of a literary way of understanding some of the implications of this text. By no means exhaustive, I will tell you that. Going on. V'ta'an lahem Miriam. So Miriam responded to them. Okay, in other words, she and the women were responding to each other. Shiru lashim ki ga'o ga'a, sing unto the Lord, for he has done glorious. And that's possibly what Miriam would say to them, and they would respond with Sus v'ruchvo rama vayam, the horse and his rider he has cast into the sea. Take a look. Vatan lahem Miriam. So Miriam responded to them. Moshe, so here's the thing. Why does it mention Miriam Davka? It did mention Moses before, Az Yashim Moshe, right at the beginning, right? Amar Shilala Anashim. So Moses would lead the men in song. Hu Omer, he would say, Vahem Onim, he would make the beginning statement and they would respond, Acharav, after him. O Miriam Amra Shira Nashim, and Miriam sang the song with the women. Going on. Vayasa Moshe et Yisrael miyam suf. So Moses, this is interesting, Vayasa. So it's a causative, right, that he caused to travel the Israelites. Moses caused the Israelites to travel from the Red Sea, from Yam Suf, Vayetzu el midbar Shur, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur. Vayelchu shloshet yamim, and they went for 3 days, bamidbar, in the wilderness, velo matzu mayim, but they weren't able to find any water. Okay, so Rashi again is going to look at this verse of Vayasa Moshe, right? That he caused them to travel. He si'an bal korcham. He made them travel against their will. This is based on the Mechilta, right? That's early. It's an earlier text than the Gemara. Here we go. Why? Why did he have to make them travel? She'itru Mitzrayim Susehem, going back into the explanation, is that the Egyptians would decorate their horses, betachshitei zahav, with ornaments of gold, v'kesef, and silver, v'avanim tovot, and precious stones. So they took these horses, right? It says, into the Red Sea. And then the horses they all became inundated. So all this gold and silver and precious stones was there in the Red Sea. It was in the Red Sea. V'hayu Yisrael motziim otam bayam, and the Israelites would find them in the sea. Udolah hayta bizat hayam, and greater was the booty that they found in the sea, right? The spoiling of the sea, mibizat Mitzrayim, from how they spoiled Egypt to spoiled Egypt. Shinemar, how do we know this? It says in Shir Hashirim, it says, Turei Zahav Ne'esalach, right? Bracelets of gold are made for you, im nikudot hakesef, together with studs of silver, right? So we've got bracelets of gold compared to studs of silver. What are larger, right? And so Rashi says, lefichach. So the idea is that this is the booty of the sea, and nikudot kesef is from the booty of Egypt. This I found in Safaria, as in parenthetical comments there. Lefichach hutzrach lahasian bal korcham, and this is the reason why he had to force them to move onwards, because they were so busy, trying to despoil what they found in the sea from the Egyptians. Interesting that one word can give rise to all this explanation. Not the first time, right? Vayavo'u, right? And they came, Marata to Mara, V'lo yachlu lishtot mayim mimara. And so there was apparently some kind of oasis in Mara, but they were not able to drink the water from Mara. Ki marim heim, because they were bitter. The waters were bitter. Al Kain Karash Mara, and that's the reason why that place is called Mara, from the word bitter. Okay, so Marata, I believe here we go. Vayavo'u Marata. They came to Mara, and Rashi is going to go into somewhat of an extensive grammatical explanation here. Kamo lemara. So Marata is as if it had said lemara. Both of them mean to Mara. And Rashi explains the grammatical point. Hey basof teva, that when you come to a hey at the end of a word, b'makom lamed, that's taking the place of a lamed betchilata, that's at the beginning of the word. V'hataf, and so explaining, because the name of the place is Mara, right? But we call this Marata, right? So what's the taf? Hataf hi bimkom hey hanisheret bateva. This taf comes to take the place of the hey at the end of Mara. That's at the end of the word. Hanisheret batevat Mara. Uvesmichata, and when it is in a possessive form, in other words, keshehi nidbeket lahei shehu mosif, right? So when it is in this situation of being connected to the hay that follows, b'makom halamed, that's the hay that's coming to take the place of the lamed, titasfan hahe shel Sarah shel shoresh. So we add this, or rather, this is actually a chet. Tithapech hahe shel shoresh. The hay of the root of the word becomes tav. It becomes a tav. It's turned into a tav. And he gives other examples. V'chol hey shehi shorish bateva, right? So likewise, every time we have a hey that's at the end of a word, right? Hitapech letav besmichata. It's going to, when it's in smichut is a grammatical form where it's something of, right? So if the grammatical form and the vocalization of the word changes when it becomes a possessive case. So buy it would be an example of house, right? But if in this particular case, if you want to say house of, the word would be bait. So buy it. But if you want to talk about a school, you'd say Beit Sefer. And likewise, nouns change in this particular possessive case. Right? It's called smichut, attachment. And he gives now examples, other examples from the Bible. Yeshaya Kaf Zayin, Isaiah chapter 27. Okay. Chema ein li, I have no anger. That's the regular form, but you'll notice it ends in a hey. And then in Esther it says, v'chamato, and his anger. See, his, the possessive case, and there's that hey that changed into a tough, but bo'era, was inflamed within him. Hare hey shel shoresh. And so we see that the hey of the root form of the verb, the nitapechet letav, it changes into a tav, mipnei nismechet el havav hanosefet. Right? So here we go. Chamator. That's the vav that was added on here. So that's the reason why that hey of chema changes into a tav and it becomes chamato. V'chein, let's see, avad, okay, sorry, eved, sorry, forgive me. V'chein eved ve'ama, right, a slave and a maid servant. So there's ama, right, with a at the end, and that's um, in chapter 30 of Genesis. Hine amati, right? Laban says, "Here is amati." Notice my maidservant, and the hay is changed into a tav bilha. So, or let me think. I think it's actually Rachel who says to Jacob, "Here is my maidservant. You go in with her so that I can have children through her." So again, lenefesh chaya. There's that hey at the end of chaya, right? And in Job chapter 33, v'zahamato chayto lechem. Difficult, by the way, the Hebrew in Job is some of the most difficult Hebrew in the Bible, but it means, okay, his life, chayto, chaya, his life, because of his life, v'zomato lechem, bread has become repulsive. Bain harama, between Rama and Bethel, right? That's in I think that is in Genesis. Uchuvato haramata, right? So there's a, and it becomes a taf there, and he returned to. There's the la, right? The hey here meaning to Rama haramata. So every so often we know that Rashi gives us these grammatical points regarding Hebrew. So it becomes quite technical at that point. Vayilonu, right? Let me stop. I'm going to stop right here, and we'll pick this up tomorrow. And we're going to see that this is a great paragraph on the theme of what have you done for me lately? So we'll work this out tomorrow and take a look at it. In the meantime, I'm going to stop the share, and if you want to share anything or make comments or questions for the record, please feel free. David, you look like you do have a thought. Oh, your thought was to mute yourself. Harlan, did you have something you want to say?
Rabbi, I have a question for you. When the Israelites spent some time at the edge of the Sea of Reeds collecting booty,
Yes, exactly.
they collected gold and silver.
Right.
I happen to collect gold and silver,
Okay.
and gold and silver is extremely heavy,
Yes, it is.
and it floats when you drop it in water. It's much heavier than water.
Right.
So how did this gold and silver end up on the beach?
Okay, so it didn't say it was on the beach, did it?
No,
Okay. It didn't. So,
golden calf.
well, that's later on, quite a bit later on. Okay, so remember what happened was the sea split. And if you can get the picture, I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep the light out of your eyes. when
Yeah,
they
it's
walk
hard.
through. So as they're walking through, they're walking through on dry land. The Egyptians are following, and the waters are pouring in on them. Okay. And so it's quite possible that some of the stuff just rolled out and they were able to find it as, as they were walking through. I agree with you. I mean, I also had this, I'm also aware that silver and gold and probably these stones are also heavy. But somehow or other, they were able, these stones, when the Egyptians were getting inundated, they fell off the horses, right? And wound up possibly on the dry side of things as the Israelites were walking along the bed of the sea. So that's the best I can do. How compelling an explanation that is, I don't know, but that's the best I can do in terms of trying to visualize what happened, and given the point that you made.
Okay.
They, I don't think they're trying to suggest that this stuff was floating. Okay. And it's possible, that under those circumstances it got washed up. It is a good question, and there are probably, greater scholars that have discussed this and maybe have come up with better explanations. So, in all fairness, this is where I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you.